Hey, real quick before we get into this. If you ever felt stuck in a cycle you couldn't break, if you've ever promised yourself this is the last time, and then found yourself right back in the same place, this one's for you. Stay with me. So let me ask you something. What if there was a verse in the Quran, one that most people have read 100 times, but almost nobody actually understands what it's really saying? Not the surface level meaning, the deep meaning, the one that, when it finally clicks, changes how you see yourself, how you see your struggles, and how you approach getting closer to Allah. That's what I want to talk about today. And I want to be upfront with you. I'm not here to give you a lecture. I'm not here to make you feel bad. I genuinely believe this is something that could help, and I want to share in a way that actually makes sense. Not just spiritually, but practically in real everyday life. So if that sounds good to you, drop a like right now. It seriously helps this message reach other people who might need it just as much as you do. Now, let's be honest for a second. If you're watching this video, there's probably a reason. Maybe you've been struggling with something. Maybe you keep falling into the same pattern over and over. You tell yourself you're done. You feel the guilt. You make dua. You feel better for a little while. And then you're right back where you started. And the worst part isn't even the act itself. The worst part is the feeling that comes after. That heavy feeling in your chest. That voice in your head that says you're never going to change. That fear that maybe you've gone too far and Allah won't accept you anymore. I want you to know something. That feeling, it's real, it's painful, and it's also one of the biggest lies that gets planted in our hearts when we're at our lowest. You haven't gone too far, not even close. But let's talk about why so many people stay stuck, because understanding this is actually the first step. Here's what most people try to do when they want to stop. They use willpower. They white-knuckle it. They say, I'm just not going to do it anymore. And they try to push through with sheer determination. And sometimes that works for a few days, maybe even a few weeks. But then something happens. They get bored. They get lonely. They see something. They feel something. And boom, they're right back in it. Here's what I've come to understand. And I think this lines up with what Islamic scholars have said for centuries. The struggle isn't just about the action. It starts way earlier than that. It starts with a glance, then a thought, then a little fantasy, then a small compromise, and then, almost like it happened without you even deciding, there you are again. This is what the Quran seems to be addressing in a way that I think most of us completely miss. Go ahead and drop a like if any of this is hitting home for you. I want to know I'm not just talking to myself here. Okay, so here's the verse I want to focus on today. Surah An-Nur, chapter 24. Verse 30, tell the believing men to lower their gaze and guard their private parts. That is purer for them. Indeed, Allah is acquainted with what they do. Now, I know, you've probably heard this verse before, maybe many times. And your first thought might be, yeah, I know, lower your gaze. But hold on, because I don't think most people are sitting with the full weight of what this verse is actually doing. Let me break it down in a way that hopefully lands differently. First, notice that Allah doesn't say, don't commit zina. He goes earlier than that. He goes to the very root. He says, lower your gaze. Why? Because the struggle, at least in my understanding of how this works, doesn't start at the action. It starts at what you allow into your eyes, into your mind, into your imagination. Think about it like this. If you want to stop a fire from spreading, you don't wait until the whole house is burning. You catch the first spark. The gaze is a spark. And this verse, the way I read it, is essentially Allah saying, I know how this works. I designed you. And the protection starts here, not at the end, but at the very beginning. That second part of the verse, that is purer for them, is fascinating to me. It's not saying that will keep you out of trouble. It's saying it will make you purer. There's a difference. One is about avoiding consequences. The other is about becoming something better. And then that last line, indeed, Allah is acquainted with what they do. Now here's where I think people either find comfort or get scared. And I want you to lean into the comfort here. Allah already knows. He knows your struggle. He knows the days you win and the days you don't. He's not surprised. He's not giving up on you. He's acquainted with what you do, and he's still giving you guidance, still giving you a way forward. That's not a God who has abandoned you. That's a God who is still in the conversation with you. Drop a like if that perspective means something to you right now. Now, let me tell you about someone. I'll keep it general because the details don't matter as much as the pattern. There was a brother who had been trying to break free from this cycle for years. He'd tried everything, blocking websites, deleting apps, telling himself over and over that he was done. Nothing stuck. And then someone, just a friend, nothing fancy, sat down with him and walked through this verse slowly. Not in a lecture way, just in a, let's actually think about what this means kind of way. And what clicked for him wasn't the prohibition part. It was the beginning of the process part. He started catching himself earlier, not at the action, at the glance, at the scroll, at the idle moment where his mind started to wander. He started making duet in those moments, not after. He started treating those early seconds as the battlefield, not as irrelevant. And gradually, not overnight, gradually, the pattern started to shift. He told me the biggest change wasn't that temptation disappeared. It's that he stopped feeling powerless against it, because he understood where to actually fight. Here's something I think is worth hearing, even if it's a little uncomfortable. One of the things scholars talk about, and I think this is important, is what happens to the heart when we keep ignoring the early warning signs, when we keep letting those small moments slide. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen all at once. But slowly, the heart starts to feel less. What used to feel wrong starts to feel normal. What used to bring guilt starts to feel like nothing. That gradual fading of sensitivity. I think that's one of the things we should actually be afraid of. Not a punishment from outside, but a slow change happening inside. The good news is that sensitivity can come back. The heart can soften again. But it starts with catching it early. So let me give you something practical to actually do with this. First, memorize a verse. Or at minimum, write it somewhere you'll see it. Surah An-Nur 2400 hours 30. Put it in your phone. Put it on a sticky note. Whatever works for you. Second, start paying attention to the beginning of the process, not just the end. Notice the moments before the moment. The scroll, the boredom, the loneliness, the idle time. Those are your real battlegrounds. Third, make du'a before you feel weak, not just after you fall. Ask Allah for strength in the ordinary moments, not just in crisis. Fourth, remove what you can from your environment. This isn't about being weak. It's about being smart. If something is a consistent trigger for you, you don't have to keep putting yourself in front of it. And fifth, be patient with yourself. Change takes time. You're not a failure because you haven't figured this out yet. You're a person who is still trying, and that matters. Drop a like if you're going to try at least one of these this week. Seriously, make a small commitment to yourself right now. I want to close with this. Nobody is locked into who they've been. That's not how Allah works. That's not how Tawbah works. That's not how growth works. The fact that you're watching this, that you're still searching, that you haven't just given up and accepted the cycle is permanent, that says something about you. That's not nothing. That's actually a really meaningful thing. This verse, at least the way I understand it, isn't just a rule. It's a map. It's Allah showing you where protection actually begins. And when you start working with that, when you start catching the spark instead of always fighting the fire, things can genuinely start to shift. If this brought something useful to you today, leave a like before you go. It takes 2 seconds, and it helps this kind of content reach someone else who might really need it right now. And drop a comment that says, "May Allah strengthen my Iman." Let that be a small, real commitment, just between you and your intention. Nobody else has to know what it means to you, but you will. Take care of yourselves. Assalamu alaikum.